Oh yes, welcome, you quiet architects of chaos, you soft-spoken masterminds in shadows, you misfits who smiled and nodded while the world thought you knew nothing. Welcome to the kingdom of masks, the throne of the overlooked, the realm of the underestimated. This one, this speech, is for you. You were never just the quiet one, never just the outcast, never just the one they overlooked in the room. You were studying, watching, collecting weaknesses like trophies while they danced arrogantly in front of you, blind to the fact that you were reading them like books they never knew you could open. You who were dismissed as foolish, who were laughed at when you asked dumb questions, who were overlooked when strategies were whispered and plans unfolded, who stood behind the veil of harmlessness. Your patience was your blade, and now, oh now, you see it clearly. They told you everything. You didn't have to dig, didn't have to force, didn't have to fight. They gave it to you. They handed you their secrets wrapped in smugness, and you took them with a smile that said, "I'm too stupid to understand," when in reality, you were memorizing every word. You played dumb so well, they never thought you were a threat. That's the power of invisibility, of intentional incompetence. They mistook your silence for ignorance. They mistook your patience for weakness. They mistook your stillness for stagnation. And now the tables have turned, haven't they? Now you're standing on a mountain built from every secret they carelessly handed to you. They see the shift. They see the confidence in your silence now. And they're afraid. Because the fool they once laughed at knows too much. Understand this. There is power in being underestimated. There is lethal strength in being overlooked. Because when they don't see you coming, they won't have time to defend themselves. You didn't force your way into their inner circles. They invited you in. You didn't steal anything. They offered it, thinking they were clever, thinking they were safe. But you were never playing checkers. You were playing the long game. You were studying every move, every weakness, every false smile, every arrogance-filled confession they thought would never come back to haunt them. You're not just a survivor. You're a silent war strategist. There's something delicious about being the one they underestimated. Let them think you're a joke. Let them believe you're too slow, too soft, too sweet to matter. That's when you win. That's when the magic happens. Because their guard is down, their defenses are off, and you're still watching, still absorbing, still calculating. They think you're playing dead, but you're not. You're playing patient. Think about all those moments they laughed at you, those little snickers when you asked questions they thought were stupid. Every eye roll, every time they cut you off, every time they acted like you didn't belong. Now look at you. You've got their secrets. You know their fears. You know their flaws. You know their every move. And they still don't even realize it. You see, some of the greatest victories in this world don't come from brute force or loud words. They come from silence, from humility, from patience so sharp it bleeds without ever being seen. You're not a fool. You're a weapon, but not the kind that makes noise. You're the kind of weapon that gets underestimated until it's too late, until everything collapses and they're left wondering how it happened. And the answer? You were always there, watching from the shadows, disguised as nothing. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Let them call you slow. Let them call you naive. Let them think you're not paying attention. That's when they slip up. That's when they drop their guard. That's when they give you the keys to their kingdom. Without ever knowing, they handed it to the one person who never forgot a detail. You've been underestimated for so long, you could write books on what people reveal when they think you don't understand. You don't react. You absorb. You don't respond. You document. You don't speak unless it matters. Because you've learned the art of patience. You've learned the art of playing dumb like a violin until the moment it's time to strike. And when that moment comes, you don't strike wildly. You don't scream revenge. You just win. Quietly. Strategically. Perfectly. Like you've been planning it for years. Because you have. They thought the clown was there for entertainment, but the clown was never there to make them laugh. The clown was there to distract them while the plan unfolded. And when they finally realize it, when the laughter dies and the silence echoes too loudly, it's already over. You fooled them all. You don't rise by yelling. You rise by waiting. Let them run their mouths. Let them sabotage themselves. You don't need to fight for the spotlight. You own the shadows. The shadows are where the real power is, where the smartest, most dangerous ones live. The underestimated, the dismissed, the quiet ones who ask dumb questions on purpose, the ones who listen 10 times more than they speak, the ones who understand that true intelligence doesn't scream, it watches. Let them think you're harmless. Let them mistake you for a sheep. Because the lion disguised as a sheep has more power than the one roaring in plain sight. You've got patience in your bones, fire in your brain. You're made of quiet rage and calm calculation. And now, you've got everything you need. Every secret they whispered behind your back. Every confession they thought was safe. Every plan they thought you'd never understand. You've got it all, and they'll never know when it'll hit them. This is your time now. This is your throne. Your victory was never about proving them wrong with loud words. It was about knowing you were right the whole time and watching as they proved themselves wrong. You didn't have to say a word. They exposed themselves. They opened the gates. They handed you their trust, their fears, their pride, and you took it all without lifting a finger. That's mastery. That's control. That's playing the game on a level they don't even know exists. So here's to the fools who were never foolish, to the underestimated kings and queens, to the thinkers, the watchers, the ones who wore the mask of ignorance and wore it so well it became armor. Here's to the revenge that doesn't shout. It doesn't scream. It simply wins. You played dumb so perfectly they gave you everything. And now, you own the board. You fooled them all. Now smile, because they're still laughing, and they still don't know. You already won, and oh, don't you dare feel guilt for what's coming. Don't you dare shrink now, because you earned every single truth they handed you. You earned every secret they dropped like crumbs at your feet. You didn't steal. You didn't beg. You simply existed in a way they couldn't see as dangerous. And that's on them, not you. You are the result of every smirk you endured, every conversation they had around you, thinking you weren't even worth whispering away from, every room where you were present but invisible, every time they said, "Don't worry, they're harmless." Harmless? Number. You were the calm before their storm. You were the match pretending to be a raindrop. You were a fire hiding in stillness, and they never saw it coming. This is the part of the story where the audience gasps and says, "Wait, that one? That quiet one? Yes, that one." You were never dumb. You were deliberate. Every pause was a chess move. Every clueless look was a smokescreen. You were never behind. You were listening, taking notes, understanding the terrain, learning their habits, watching how they treat people when they think no one important is watching. You saw everything, every betrayal, every lie, every fragile ego disguised as confidence, every panic they tried to dress up as power. You've been carrying an entire vault of information in your mind, and they put it there, voluntarily. That's the genius of it. You let them feel superior. Let them feel clever. Let them feel untouchable. While you build your power in silence. There's a saying, never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. But you didn't just not interrupt. You handed them the microphone and let them perform their downfall. They confessed, performed, paraded, not knowing the one person they dismissed was the one absorbing every syllable like sacred scripture. The real power isn't in knowing what to say. The real power is knowing when to say nothing at all. Because when you stay silent, people start filling the space. They expose themselves just to fill your quiet. They mistake your calm for confusion. They mistake your curiosity for dullness. And the moment they think they're smarter than you, they get sloppy. They get comfortable. They get chatty. That's when they lose. That's when you win. Not with noise, but with perfect deadly silence. And now that you've watched enough, learned enough, waited long enough, you can't be touched. Not by them. Not by the systems they used to gatekeep you. Not by the fake smiles or paper crowns. Because your crown was forged in fire. Your empire is made of everything they gave you, thinking it was harmless. Your intelligence is no longer a secret. It's a weapon. Not for chaos, not for revenge, but for domination. Because now, you walk through halls with your head high. Not because they gave you permission to rise, but because you earned every step they tried to deny you. You rise without needing applause, without needing them to understand. You don't need credit. You don't need validation, because you've already won the only war that mattered, the one where you knew what you were doing the whole time, while they thought you were too stupid to matter. How delicious is that? You let them underestimate you. That was their mistake. And now you move like a ghost through their walls, like a shadow in their dreams, like the storm they laughed at. And now, can't outrun. You fooled them all. This speech isn't just about deception. It's about control. It's about playing the game your way, about not needing to scream to be heard, about not needing a crown to rule. Because your crown, it's invisible, it's sharp, it's carved from every insult you turned into fuel. Every time they mocked you and you turned it into focus. That's the kind of king you are. That's the kind of queen you are. That's the kind of silent monarch who rules from the shadows. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. And don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let the noise distract you now. Don't let their sudden curiosity shake your calm. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Not now. Not ever. If they didn't see your value when you were quiet, they don't deserve you when you speak. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them try to piece together how it all flipped without warning. Because they'll never know the nights you stayed silent when you could have exploded. The hours you bit your tongue while memorizing their patterns. The patience it took to let them feel like gods while you built your kingdom in silence. They'll never know. Because they weren't watching you the way you were watching them. That's why you win. Not because you were louder, but because you were smarter, colder, sharper, hungrier. You wanted it more. You needed it more. You were willing to look like a fool to become the master. You were willing to be the punchline to become the blueprint. You were willing to be the ghost to become the legend. And now you walk past them and they feel the shift. They feel it in the way you carry yourself. In the silence, you no longer use to hide, but to haunt. Your silence now isn't weakness, it's authority, it's power. It's the aftermath of a storm they never even saw forming. And as they sit there, trying to understand what changed, don't tell them. Let them feel the distance. Let them feel the confusion. Because you're no longer pretending. You're no longer wearing the fool's face. The game is done. And the one who was always underestimated, they own everything now. You fooled them all. They still talk. You hear the whispers as you walk by, their voices low, hesitant, asking each other, when did this happen? They search for clues, for signs. For the moment, they missed the transformation, but they never stood a chance. Because while they were busy feeding their ego, you were feeding your focus. While they were laughing at the fool was sharpening the knife behind the curtain. They still try to rewind time in their minds, to remember if there was ever a moment you stood out. But the truth? You didn't. Because you planned not to. You needed to blend in. That was the trap. Your invisibility wasn't a curse. It was the perfect disguise. You gave them nothing to fear, and that was the beginning of their end. Now they look at you, and they're afraid to speak too freely, because now they realize the power of your silence. Now they realize you remember every conversation, every slip, every lie. You didn't forget. You filed it, archived it, stored it like weapons in a vault you knew one day you'd open. And now the vault is open. This is the phase they never expected. Because they always thought revenge would come loud and messy. They thought you'd scream, that you'd rage, that you'd throw it all back in their face like a storm of broken glass. But instead, you smiled, you rose. You disappeared into success so sharp, it cuts their pride just to witness it. You don't need to tell them you won. They know. They feel it in the pit of their stomachs when they hear your name. In rooms they no longer get invited to, when doors open for you that they thought only opened for them, when your silence is now the loudest sound in their world. You fooled them all, but let's be honest, this wasn't about revenge. Not really. Revenge is too small, too cheap. This was about power. This was about evolution. This was about proving to yourself that you could do it, that you could stay silent, stay sharp, stay composed, and play the long game without ever needing to break character. You weren't waiting to hurt them. You were waiting to outgrow them, to outpace them, to become so far beyond their reach that even if they screamed apologies into the void, it wouldn't matter anymore. You're not interested in proving a point. You are the point. You don't live in their world anymore. They live in your shadow. You outgrew the stage they once kept you under, and now they're left clinging to the script while you rewrite the play. And here's the darkest truth of all. They needed you to stay small, because your rise exposes their lack of vision. You were in the same room, the same meetings, the same corridors, but you saw what they didn't. You saw everything. And now, your silence exposes their blindness. You didn't just fool them, you exposed them. And deep down, they hate you for that. Not because you hurt them, but because you proved they were never as smart as they pretended to be. They handed you their secrets. You turned them into strategy. They gave you mockery. You turned it into fire. They gave you doubt. You turned it into fuel. And now you walk with the power of 1,000 conversations they wish they'd never had in your presence. That's the curse of underestimating the quiet ones. They think you're beneath them until you become untouchable. And when they finally try to reach out, to pretend they were always on your side, you won't need to speak. Your absence will say everything. Your silence will scream louder than any revenge, because true power doesn't need to fight, it just wins. So keep walking like you know something they don't, because you do. Keep that look in your eyes, that calm, that fire wrapped in composure, because you know what it took. You know the discipline, the restraint, the nights you wanted to explode but didn't, the times you could have exposed them, but waited. The moments you were humiliated but swallowed it with a smile because you knew one day this would all be yours. You fooled them all, and now it's all unfolding. The empire, the recognition, the shift in power dynamics. They no longer look through you. They look up at you. They no longer speak around you. They watch their words because of you. That's when you know you've arrived. When the very people who laughed now hesitate to speak your name too loudly, not out of respect, but out of fear. And let them fear. Because you're not here to soothe their egos. You're not here to make them feel safe. You're here to win. And you've already won the hardest war of all, the one inside yourself. The war of restraint, the war of playing the fool so long you almost forgot how powerful you truly were. But you never forgot. Not really. You were waiting. And now you don't need their attention. You don't crave their praise. You don't need their stage. You built your own. And it's bigger, louder, stronger. Because it was built on truth and scars and silence turned to steel. And now you're the one handing out roles. Now you're the one setting the terms. Now you're the one they can't ignore. They thought you were dumb. They thought you were harmless. They thought you were a joke. Now they look around and realize the joke's over. And they were the punchline. You fooled them all. And now here you stand in a world you built from the very stones they threw at you, in a palace made of patience, paved with secrets they gave you willingly. This moment, this era, is no accident. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was execution, precision, planning. This was the long con played with discipline, so deep even you forgot how sharp you were, until it all came together. You remember them all now, don't you? The smirks, the dismissals, the patronizing smiles, the ones who clapped you on the back, pretending to like you, while speaking in coded arrogance, the ones who called you nice but meant weak, the ones who said they don't get it when you asked questions. Every laugh still echoes in your mind, but not in pain. Number in triumph. Because every time they laughed, they leaked a little more of themselves. Every time they looked down on you, they dropped their guard. You never had to steal power. They just left it laying around, assuming you'd never know what to do with it. But you did. And now that power is yours. You didn't play dumb. You played deadly. You didn't stumble into success. You built it from the discarded blueprints of their carelessness. You didn't rise by mistake. You rose because you refused to stay on the floor. Because the fool they thought you were was always a master in disguise. Because the joke they whispered was always your cue to listen harder. Because their egos were so loud, they couldn't hear the footsteps of a future where you would be king. And now, that day has come. This speech, these words, aren't a fantasy. They are reality. The reality you carved out of stone and grit and strategy. You see it now. You never had to prove them wrong. You just had to keep going. And now, you don't need to shout. You don't need to scream. You just exist. And your existence alone disrupts their comfort. You fooled them all. There is no sweeter justice than this. Becoming everything they said you'd never be. While they slowly become everything you outgrew, and you don't even have to say it. They see it in the way you carry yourself. They feel it in the silence you wear like armor. You are no longer the invisible one. You are unforgettable now, not because you demanded to be remembered, but because you were the only one truly paying attention the whole time. They taught you how to win. Without meaning to, they taught you how to conquer. And that's the cruel irony. You were their student, not because you asked to be, but because they were foolish enough to let you learn from their arrogance. You studied their cruelty, their greed, their patterns. And now, you are the sum of everything they taught, weaponized with grace, forged in shadows, crowned in silence. That's not just power, that's evolution. You no longer seek validation, you are validation. You no longer need their invitations, you own the room now, and they feel it. The energy has shifted, they can't explain it, they can't put their finger on it, but you can see the doubt creeping in behind their eyes. You can hear the uncertainty in their laughter now. The confidence is gone, because the fool they once mocked now stands untouchable. That's the final twist in the story. They told on themselves. They laughed too loudly. They trusted too easily. And now you know where every skeleton is buried, because they buried them in front of you. You fooled them all, and let's be clear, this isn't about revenge. This is about freedom, about finally stepping into the version of yourself that was waiting all along. You don't want payback. You want peace, and you've earned it. You want distance from the people who once made you feel like less. You want silence, not to hide, but to thrive. And most of all, you want to keep building, keep rising, keep becoming so massive that they can't even pretend they never saw you coming. And they'll try. Oh yes, they'll rewrite the past. They'll say they always believed in you. They'll say they knew you had it in you. Let them. Smile, nod. Let them cling to their revisions. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to remind them of who they were when you were nothing, because you haven't forgotten, and you never will. But you also don't need to carry that pain anymore, because you turned it into power. Every ounce of doubt they poured into you, you transformed it. You used it to become what they feared. Not the villain, number. That would be too easy. You became something worse for them. The proof they were wrong. The proof that their instincts were flawed. That their arrogance had blind spots. That they had a diamond in front of them and only saw dust. That's the kind of defeat they never recover from. And the beauty of it all? You did it without ever breaking your character. You never screamed. You never exposed them. You just got so good, so powerful, so undeniable. They had no choice but to choke on your name in rooms where they once laughed about you. You fooled them all. And now the game has changed. You set the rules now. You decide who gets in. You decide who gets access. You decide which voices matter. And those who once mocked you, they can feel the wall now. The one you built, brick by brick, with every insult they threw at you. Now they stand on the outside looking in, wondering how the hell they missed it. Wondering how they let you slip through the cracks and become everything they pretended to be. But it's too late. You've outgrown the apology. You've outpaced the regret. You've outlived the lie. You are not here to explain. You are not here to justify. You are here to reign, quietly, elegantly, powerfully. You played dumb so perfectly, they gave you all their secrets. And now, you don't need to say another word. Just exist. Let them feel the burn of your presence. Let them crumble beneath the weight of their underestimation. Let them tell the story, knowing they don't have a place in the final chapter. Because in the end, you fooled them all, and you never even had to lie.